Hello, good day everyone. So for today, we will talk about the communication for academic purposes. Okay, and here are the things that we are going to talk about. So first, we have academic communication. So we will define it, and then we will talk about academic paper and research paper and how we can arrive in making these types of papers. And then of course, let's just talk about the discourse and its types. Okay, so now let's begin. So first, let's define what is academic communication. So as you can see here, it entails formally and effectively presenting ideas in a scholastic environment. So when we say scholastic, that means it has something to do with the schools or learning. So in other words, when we say academic communication, that means highly structured communication methods that are typically used in pedagogical settings. Again, when we say pedagogical, that means the art or the science of teaching. Okay, so this one includes words and structures that express and generate concepts or ideas. So you must always remember that we are going to study academic communication and academic writing or communication skills because these are important aspects of your academic life as well as necessary to the workplace. So regardless of which career path you choose, these are significant. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So now let's talk about the academic paper. So I know that you are already familiar with the types or the kinds of academic paper that you have because you have been doing this for a while now since you are already in college. So as you know, this includes academic assignments such as case study, any types of analysis, may it be in financial or in any field, and of course reports. So when you talk about academic writing, you have to, okay, let's have this four. So first, you ask yourself a question and then conceptualize a problem, find a solution to that problem, and of course, argue your own stand. Okay, so first, you have to, again, look for a question or a point of contention, okay, a topic, okay, that you can research about, and then you have to find evidence for that in your paper to prove or explain. Okay, so it will also assist you in crafting a well-focused thesis statement. So to be more specific at arriving at an academic paper or writing an academic paper, so let's look at the following steps. Okay, so of course, these are 11. So we have listed 11 steps here. So of course, after deciding on the research question to write your paper, you have to do some research on the topic and then find some reliable sources to back up the argument that you are going to make. So you can access university resources at the library or of course at the internet, which can include a wide range of scholarly materials information. Okay, so of course, we already talked about this one. So from selecting a topic to creating a timeline for your academic paper, and then you will have to design a system to organize and of course taking notes until checking documentation. So make sure that you are going to take notes and of course include bibliographic information for any resources you are going to use in your paper. So make a note of it and then you write it down in your own words for you to remember it very well or easily. So of course, in writing the bibliographic information of your source, you can include the author's name, the work title, the publication information, the date, of course, don't forget that, and of course you can also include the page numbers. Okay, so also remember to indicate whether the words you are using have been quoted, summarized, or paraphrased. Okay, well, I'm going to show you an example of this for later on when we talk about the references or the citation. Okay, so I also like you to always remember to avoid plagiarism, okay, or plagiarizing a work of other. Okay, so now when we say plagiarizing, this means you should not use the ideas of other writers as if they were your own work. Okay, so remember that every borrowed idea must be documented by citing the original source and creating a reference list. Okay, this have always been my issue to my past students or the students that I am handling, because when they submit papers, assignments, they tend to forget citing their references. So it appears that the ideas are all coming from them, but then in reality, they have borrowed ideas from others. So you should always remember that if you come up with any ideas, or maybe you borrowed ideas from other people, you should always cite your resources to avoid plagiarism. Okay, so as I've said, I'm going to show you an example later on how you can cite your resources. Okay, so remember that that if you are caught cheating or plagiarizing someone's work, you are putting yourself at risk. Okay, so remember to cite your references. Okay, let's go to number 7. So outline your paper. So make certain that your paper contains 3 essential essay components, and I think you already know this. Okay, your paper should begin with an introduction that provides a general idea about the topic and introduces it in an interesting way. Okay, of course, after the introduction, you should have the body. Okay, so the body paragraphs that will expand the thesis statement that you also put on the introduction of your paper. And of course, lastly, the conclusion. So a conclusion that could be a restatement, a summary, or a final thought that bring the piece to close discussion. Okay, so those are the 3 essential components of the essay that you should put on your paper. Okay, then afterwards, you can review your work to revise and edit. Okay, so check documentation as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example. Okay, so we have the topic. Okay, so this is the title. So the relevance of wearing school uniforms among college students. Okay, so you know that not all the universities or colleges are requiring their students to wear school uniforms. So this will be the topic on hand, and then of course let's have the thesis statement. So wearing school uniforms among education college students promotes unity and loyalty toward one another. And of course you have to provide questions as well. So these are the 3 questions. So first, what did the design and the color of the school uniform among education college students reflect? Okay, so besides unity and loyalty matters, why is the wearing of a school uniform among education college students relevant? And lastly, how does the wearing of school uniforms among education college students promote unity and loyalty among students themselves? Okay, so this is just an example. So from the topic, you provide a thesis statement for that, and then you also provide some preliminary questions to proceed with the academic paper that you are writing. Okay, so now let's talk about the references. So what you're going to do, okay, is you put your references at the end of your paper. So of course you can cite your resources within the paper itself, so that is what we call as the in-text citation. So you just put the surname and the date of the source that you have, and then after that you put the other details on the reference part. Okay, so first remember to list the resource or the sources you have used. Okay, and of course the citation. Okay, so normally or in most colleges they use the APA citation style. So American Psychological Association citation style. And of course, to learn about this, you can browse the Google. You also there are some websites actually that provide some patterns that you can have, so that it will be easier for you to put your citations for your academic paper. So now, yeah, let's try to visit this one. So now I'm taking you to the site that I found on Google. So I just type, APA citation style latest, or the 7th edition, because this is the latest one. Always remember that APA citation styles or any other citation styles that you prefer updates. So you have to be updated with the latest edition, so that you have the updated version when you put it on your reference list. So of course this one, so APA 7th edition, so 2020. Okay, so of course, as you can see here, there are 17 most notable changes, as compared to the last edition. Okay, so we are not going to read this one, so you can just browse it on the internet if you want to know about that. I'm just going to show you a glimpse of the changes that it has. Okay, so as I am telling you a while ago, so there is a pattern, as you can see here. So when you put in the in-text citation the surname of this, so for example Covey 2013, so that's the in-text citation. On the reference list, this is what you're going to put. Okay, so the surname, the first letter of the name. Okay, so this is just one person. So if there are others, you can put them, the others there, such as this one. You just put end, the word end. Okay, and the surname and the first letter of that person, and then of course the date. So it's put on open and close parenthesis, and then okay, this is not actually the latest. Let's go to this one, but it's just the same. Okay, there's just no publisher location on the first one, like this one, the highlighted. Okay, so you're not going to put that. Okay, so the surname, the first letter of the name, and then the date with open and close parenthesis, period. Don't forget that. The title. Okay, so please take note of the title. So only the first word is capitalized. The rest, okay, you have to put them on small case. Okay, so unless what you call this, it's really needed that you have to put it on a capital letter. Okay, and then of course the publisher. Okay, but you do not put the publisher location. So that is just one changes that has happened on the EPA citation style. So this is what I'm talking about, the in-text citation. Okay, so this is for in-text citation for works with 3 or more authors is now shortened. Okay, so instead of putting them all, you just have to put the word et al, and that is understood already. Okay, and then the date. Then okay, this one, Okay, so this one, just remember, this is for the in-text citation. For number 3, let's talk about the reference entry. Okay, so this time surnames and initials for up to 20 authors instead of 7 should be provided in the reference entry. So you're just going to put them all here. Okay, so next one, okay, so DOIs are formatted same as the URLs or the links. Okay, oh, this one. Okay, it's like here when you put it, when you copy that one and then you put it there. Okay, so usually, like what I have been doing with my papers in the past, so I put retrieve from and then the date. This one, and then the date, like retrieve from April 3, 2022 from https blah blah. Okay, for now we don't have to put the words or the phrase retrieve from and the date. We just have to just copy paste the link itself. Okay, so of course there are differences when putting the citation in the reference list for the ebooks, the websites, or from the books. You just have to find them here. Okay, just check it, double check it here. Okay, so I'm not going to tackle this all. You can study this on your own, or your teacher on your research subject can discuss this to you, but for the sake of submitting your academic papers, with the sake of avoiding plagiarism, just always ask Google about the APA citation style. Okay, so now let's go back to our presentation. Okay, we're done with the APA citation style. Now let's proceed to the next one. Okay, so now we're done with academic paper. Let's now talk about the elements of research writing. And as you can see here, there are 4 elements. Okay, so we have review, analysis, argument, and essay. And what are these? Okay, so in order to conduct a review of literature, so it's the commonly known as the RRL, or the review of related literature. Okay, so in order to conduct that in a particular field, you must first conduct research and then summarize and paraphrase the findings. So what I'm actually doing is, for it to be easier to get the main point, the ideas, the pattern, is that I make a matrix. I put there the title, the author, the date, the methodology that has been used on that particular research or paper, the findings, the analysis, and the results and conclusion. Okay, and of course the other remarks for it to be easier. Okay, so its goal is to demonstrate that you can find and comprehend important professional literature in a given field. Another element is the analysis. Okay, so you can also find this on the structure of research paper. Okay, and when we say analysis or to analyze, that means you are dissecting it into its constituent parts in order to inspect and comprehend. Okay, so, and then you have to restructure those parts in a way that makes sense to you. And okay, let's take for example, in an analytical research paper, you conduct research to become expert on a subject so that you can restructure and present the subject from your own point of view. Okay, so let's take an example. For instance, you could look into the mother's role in a Western family. Okay, so in analysis part, or in analysis element, you can break down the topic into its components. Okay, you can look at the mother's responsibilities in the home, her social status, and her expected role in society. Then you conduct research on each component before presenting your overall perspective and conclusion on the mother's role. Okay, so let's go to the argument. So your paper needs to support your stand on an issue. Okay, and in the same way that a lawyer uses evidence to make their case, an argumentative research paper is analytical in nature. But, of course, it uses information as evidence to support its point. Again, you put your sources um, to back up the evidences that you have. Okay, so your thinking is the most important aspect of an essay. Okay, let's go to essay element. So you are not writing an essay unless you write honestly and with the conviction that comes from using your own voice, right? Or your own thinking. So an essay usually focuses on a single central question and develops a thesis to answer the question. Okay, so here is an example of a structure of a research paper, but of course it will still depend on the institution that you are in. So for example, in my school now for graduate studies, we don't really follow the arrangement of this, or the order of this structure. So instead we have the what we call as the IMRAD pattern. So from the introduction, next is the methodology, and then the literature review, or the RRL, and then analysis, and then discussion. So that's the IMRAD patterns. But of course, it will still depend on the institution. It is still acceptable if you have this order. So if you prefer to have the introduction, RRL, then methodology, then findings and analysis, that is totally okay as well. Okay, so this time, okay, so we listed here uh, some 11 steps in writing research paper. So actually, just like the ones we discussed a while ago on arriving at an academic paper, it is also the same here in arriving a research paper. So there is no so much difference between the two. Okay, so we always start with a big one mess. So, okay, of course, you know that that is finding a problem for which you are also going to find the solution. And then you go through the same rigorous steps, such as developing a research question, to developing a research thesis, and then finding sources for that. Then after that, you evaluate the sources. Again, you take notes, and then working with quotations, summaries, and paraphrases. And then you build the draft of your paper, you document sources, then again read and proofread the work that you have. Okay, so those are the steps of writing a research paper. So they are just the same. Okay, so now let's talk about the types of research. Okay, if you have a research subject, I'm sure that you are already familiar with the differences of these two, but for the sake of those who are not yet familiar with these two, let us just talk about the differences of these two. So let's have the quantitative research first. So quantitative is used to quantify the problem by generating numerical data, or data that can be transformed into usable statistics. On the other hand, qualitative research is primarily exploratory in nature. So it is used to gain an understanding of underlying reasons, opinions, and of course motivations. Okay, so there are actually partial differences with the methods that they use as well. For instance, in qualitative research, it normally uses the method of focus group discussions, or the FGD. You can also do individual interviews, and of course participation or observation. So these are the common methods that we use in qualitative. On the other hand, for the quantitative method, it normally uses various types of surveys. So of course, now that we are in a technological generation, you can use or you can have online surveys as compared to the paper surveys that we have as a traditional method. But of course, it is still usable or applicable nowadays. Okay, so you can also have face-to-face or telephone interviews, longitudinal studies, and so on. Okay, so for example, let's have uh, quantitative research study. So for this one, you can study the levels of social media addiction. Okay, you quantify the social media addiction of a particular group. Or for example, you can also have a quantitative study on perception of college students on the new normal mode of learning and such. While the qualitative research, you can study or you can make a case study about something. For instance, you can study on the online shopping behavior of a particular group of people as well. Okay, so types of therapies that are particular for that are applicable for a particular group of people and so on. Okay, so you just have to know the difference between the two. But you can actually also have a mixed method. That means you can use quasi-quantitative, quasi-qualitative, such that. So those are also other types of research, but we will not go deeper for that. So it's the task of your research teacher to discuss that. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, so now we have on the last part of our discussion for academic communication. Okay, down to academic paper, down to research paper. Now let's have the discourse and its type. So as you can see here, when we say discourse, that is a written and spoken communication. Okay, it can be both. Okay. Um, when you discuss something with your friends in person or over a chat platform like the Messenger or in the IG or whatever you use, so that is an example of discourse. Okay, so discourse can also be defined as when someone expresses their thoughts on a specific subject in a formal and orderly manner. Okay, so it can either be through verbal or writing. Okay, so let's just talk about the paragraph because you always this is of course relevant when you are making your academic or your research papers. Okay, so what should it contain? So it should have unity, coherence, brevity, and emphasis. Okay, so a good paragraph with unity develops a single idea thoroughly and links it to the rest of the paper. That means, yeah, you have unity of ideas. And then when we say coherence, okay, it emphasizes the connection between the old and new information in order to help the reader understand the structure of ideas or arguments. And of course, brevity, that means the conciseness of ideas that you have for your paragraph. Okay, and then when we say emphasis, that means the repetition of words and phrases or the careful arrangement of words to give them special weight and prominence. So that is the emphasis both in writing and speaking. Okay, let's go to type of discourse. We have narration, and of course, you know that narration tells a story. So aside from the stories, it also uses folklore or drama to communicate. And some example of this or some examples of narrative discourse are stage plays, stories, and again folklore. Another type of discourse is, of course, description. And this type involves describing something in terms of the senses. Okay, so what the author actually sees, feels, touches, tastes, and smells. Okay, so descriptive discourse allows the audience to form a mental picture of what is being discussed. So descriptive sections of a novel or essay are examples of descriptive discourse. Okay, so the author usually uses adjectives, participles, and other modifiers. And of course, we have the exposition. Okay, an exposition is a type of discourse intended to give information about or an explanation of an issue, subject, method, or idea. Okay, so its primary goal is to educate the audience on the subject under discussion. Okay, it includes definitions and comparative analysis of various ideas and beliefs. Okay, now we're done with the types of discourse. Now let's go to the writing process. Well, of course, you know this, the different stages. We have the pre-writing. Okay, that is where you outline your ideas, the brainstorming happens there. And then, of course, next is the writing stage where you actually put the ideas into words, okay, into paragraphs. And then that is where you put the research that you have. So you put the different sources, their findings, the results of their studies on that stage. And of course, the post writing, where this is where the revision or editing actually happens. Okay, and in your writing process, you can ask yourself the following question. Okay, just to make sure that you will be able to convey to the readers what you want them to know. So again, first you have to ask yourself, what is my purpose for writing? For whom am I writing? And then, what message do I want to communicate or do I want to convey to my audience, to my readers, to my listeners? And then, what is the best writing discourse in conveying the message that I want to communicate? And lastly, how do I want to sound to my audience? Okay, so you can ask these questions just to make sure that you can convey to the readers what you want them to know or what you want to communicate with them. Okay, so that's the end of our discussion. I hope you got something from our discussion for today. Thank you so much and take care.